Hey, everybody, welcome to another episode of Movie Season. This year, we are going to be doing a comedy movie bracket that'll kick off March Madness, which is right around the corner. So I sat down with some people whose opinions I trust, got some feedback, made this as fair and as balanced as I possibly could, but also took into account some personal bias on movies that I like. So today, Justin will be joining me as always. Justin, how you doing, man?
Doing well. I didn't get consulted.
Yeah, you did. I practically begged you, and you're like, "Man, I don't like
seeding stuff. I like to talk about the bracket, but
you don't
I don't want to be a Joe.
You don't like seeding.
Well, I don't want to be a Joe.
You don't like ranking stuff.
Well, I don't want to be a Joe Lunardi, and people that don't know college basketball.
Dude, think about Joe Lunardi's life, dude. Joe Lunardi has made an entire career.
I'll say there's only a few issues I have with the bracket you and your board of trustees made, but like I said, I'm happy to talk about it. That'll make it interesting.
Well,
it's probably better I wasn't involved.
That's true. All right, so we'll go ahead and get started. So we had 4 regions. We have a Jim Carrey region, a Bill Murray, Ben Stiller, and Will Ferrell region. Now, not all movies will be of those people will be in each of those regions. Like, there's a couple that are, but I kind of had to split the bracket in half. Older movies, 80s, 90s, and then one 70s movie, and then 2000s was in the other half. So, and then I'm trying to think of some other things. So, like, there's some movies that I really wanted to put in here, but I didn't want to have 10 Will Ferrell movies. So, certain movies didn't make it that probably could have, but, again, I was trying to mix it up a little bit. So, all right, so let's start with the Jim Carrey region. So, what we're going to do is we're going to break down each of these little matchups real quick, and then we'll talk about which ones we like the most and which ones we think are maybe seated a little too high. So, Jim Carrey region, first off, the 1 seed was Dumb and Dumber, and it'll be going against the 16 seed Half Baked. The number 8 seed Liar Liar will be going against number 9 Miss Doubtfire. Wayne's World at the 4 seed going against Major League, the 13, and then Cable Guy at 5 going against Billy Madison at 12. So, Justin, just in that top part of the
wouldn't Wayne's World be
bracket,
5?
No, Wayne's World's 4.
Oh, okay. I was looking at it wrong. All right.
So, Justin, just that top part, what kind of sticks out?
Well, Billy Madison's way too low of a seed. That's going to be, and that pisses me off because it's going to win over the Cable Guy because it's underappreciated, and that I feel like that was on purpose. I mean, Half Baked shouldn't have made the bracket. I'm going to be honest, man. That is an average movie.
It was in one of my play-in matches that people voted on, and Half Baked won.
Then that's fine, but it shouldn't even be anywhere near this bracket.
It went against Mallrats and won. So,
even that matchup, Mallrats is better. Way better.
I don't know about way better. I think there's an argument for each. If I had to pick, I'd probably say, I don't know, man. Half-Baked's really
But I mean,
good.
this top half of this bracket's absolutely loaded. I mean, it's like I said, you got a 12 seed Billy Madison that honestly should be a top 4 seed, top 5 seed in one of the other regions, going against Cable Guy, which I think's a really underrated comedy. Major League is a 13. I mean, that's going to be interesting because that's a favorite of people's. I like the 8-9 matchup of Liar Liar Miss Doubtfire. Like I said, really solid top half here. Dumb and Dumber is absolutely a 1 seed, though, so I do agree with that.
Yeah. This top half is probably, and we'll get into the ones later on, but I think this might be the hardest one. Like, if I was predicting what would happen, like how the votes would go, I think this might be the hardest one to predict. Because other than the Dumb and Dumber one, I could see any of those other teams winning. And then once that happens, who knows how far it would go.
Yeah.
So let's move on to the second part of the Jim Carrey bracket. We got the 3 seed Austin Powers going against the 14 seed Ace Ventura. The 6 seed Heavyweights going against number 11 Blue Streak. 7 seed Tommy Boy up against 10 seed Great Outdoors. And then the 2 seed American Pie against the 15 Dazed and Confused. So, Justin, we talked a little bit before coming on, and you had some thoughts about this half.
Yeah, Austin Powers and Ace Ventura should. I don't know if they should be flipped because I don't know if Austin Powers should be a 14 seed, but Ace Ventura at a 14 seed is just mind-boggling. You know.
So let me talk a little bit about how I determined the seeds. So basically, it was own personal preference, along with kind of the legacy of those movies. So to me, Austin Powers is more of a iconic comedy than Ace Ventura.
I don't know.
And then once I started,
I really don't know. I don't think anybody talks about Austin Powers anymore. I feel like people,
dude, they talk about it more than Ace Ventura.
I don't know, man. I feel like Ace Ventura is a bigger property. Like I know Austin Powers had 3 movies. I just meant that I feel like that's gonna for sure be an upset. I would, if I'm filling out my bracket at home, I'm thinking Ace Ventura is gonna pull off that upset pretty easily. And Austin Powers is great. Don't get me wrong. I'm just saying that's how I just feel like Ace Ventura should have been at least a 7 or higher seed. So it's definitely misseeded. It must have won its conference tournament to get in.
It did. It won on it won. It's a automatic qualifier.
And Heavyweights and Blue Streak is an absolute powerhouse matchup.
Dude, that I was gonna say, what out of these matchups, what's your favorite? And that is mine.
Heavyweight, sure. But Tommy Boy and Great Outdoors for me. And again, a lot of people are gonna be. I don't know how well Great Outdoors is gonna do. It really depends on who's gonna be voting. But Tommy Boy and Great Outdoors is definitely the classic matchup for me, just because those are movies that I've seen so many times I can't even count. So, I don't mind Dazed and Confused there at 15. Again, if we're just talking comedy movies that comedy comes first. But I could see that. Honestly, I could see that potentially being an upset because, again, it just really depends on who's voting. I could see that going either way, honestly.
Yeah, I think Dazed and Confused has like that cult following thing, but I would be shocked if it beats American Pie because I think American Pie is just a better, funnier movie. I agree that there's some tough matchups here, but I think my most intriguing one, or the one that would be toughest for me to pick, would probably be Tommy Boy and Great Outdoors. Just for me personally, like trying to figure out which one I like more. I think those are the closest. Between Heavyweights and Blue Streak, I like both those movies, but I'd put Heavyweights ahead of that.
That's the toughest one. That and Cable Guy and Billy Madison out of this whole region are going to be the toughest picks for me.
All right, so if you had to pick, let's go back to the top one. If you had to pick, who's going to win this top part of the Jim Carrey region, who would you pick? And this is just Dumb and Dumber.
Who I think's going to win, or who I'd pick?
Yeah, like if you had to put both. If you had to put your money on one,
like, I think Dumb and Dumber. I think Dumb and Dumber is going to come out of this, but I think that Billy Madison will meet it in the Elite Eight there, or the Sweet 16.
Okay,
it'd be Sweet 16. Yeah,
Sweet 16.
But I think Dumb and Dumber will kind of, even though there's some great comedies here, I just think Dumb and Dumber's like, I don't see anything beating it in this bracket.
Yeah,
so
I agree.
But I think there's going to be a ton of upsets in the bottom. In the bottom, I truly think that if I had to put money on a movie to come out of this, I'm going to say it's either. I'm going to honestly say that Tommy Boy or Ace Ventura is going to come out of this bracket. again, I think American Pie is hilarious, but I'm picking movies. You know, the thing that we don't talk about enough is movies that get rebroadcast on TV or a lot of people have seen these movies. You know, you don't see American Pie on TV, and if you do, it's not any good because it's rated R. So, again, it really depends on who's watching, but I could definitely see an Ace Ventura, Tommy Boy, Sweet 16 here.
Yeah.
That wouldn't be my pick.
I think American Pie.
How it'll go.
I think American Pie will. I'm picking American Pie to come out of this bottom part. But again, it could lose very early on. And I do think there will be some upsets. I don't think Great Outdoors will beat Tommy Boy. I just don't think enough people that'll vote.
Yeah.
Follow that movie as much as.
But I'm guaranteeing
that
Ace Ventura will top Austin Powers, and my upset of this bracket, because again, Billy Madison's technically an upset, so that's an upset. And then I honestly think that because Dazed and Confused is that movie that like people like to let people know they like it. It's one of those movies, and so I really feel like that I'm going to pick that upset. I think Dazed and Confused will upset American Pie in the first round.
Oh, okay. All right, so let's go on to the next region, which is the Bill Murray region. The 1 seed is Planes, Trains, and Automobiles going against the Nutty Professor. The 8-9 matchups, Wedding Singer versus Kingpin. 4-13 is Ghostbusters versus Blazing Saddles. And the 5-12 is Christmas Vacation and City Slickers.
Now, do you just have this flipped on the one you sent me? Because the 5-12 usually goes above the 4-13. Like when you're doing brackets for the like at home, like in the tournament. Maybe you just sent it to me.
I'm not 100% sure on that. No, I'm not 100. The way that I did it was the 4 seed is going to be the top part.
That's fine. That's fine.
So if they normally do it flipped, then
it doesn't really matter the seeds,
Yeah. So out of this top region, what ranking or what seed do you think doesn't fit, or do you think this is kind of a What about the 1 seed? Do you think Planes, Trains, and Automobiles?
I do. I personally do. Yeah, and I think that movie's gained more admiration the past 5 to 10 years than it had when again, we've always loved it. I do think that's definitely for me would be a number 1 seed. And it's a seasonal movie. I think seasonal movies are going to play really well because you watch them all the time. I mean, Ghostbusters at 3 is questionable, or at 4. I feel like that could have been much higher. So I could definitely see that's going to be an interesting matchup if it's Ghostbusters Christmas Vacation, which I imagine it will be. But Wedding Singer Kingpin's going to be interesting. Again, it really depends on who's going to vote. So I could see that going either way. I
think that one more than any one that we've come across so far is going to depend on who votes. Because to me, if I was picking, but again, this is what makes this tournament kind of tough is I'm in certain moods for Kingpin, but then there's other times where I'm in the mood to watch Wedding Singer. They're both great. And
two different play styles.
I would pick.
Two different play styles, two different philosophies.
That's what makes the tournament. That's what makes the tournament fun. So,
and City Slickers, City Slickers, I think is a fantastic movie. I agree with it being this seeded because again, if you're just doing strict comedy, you gotta go comedy first. But I do think that, I mean, Christmas Vacation is just going to be a monster because again, it's not only a comedy, but it's a seasonal Christmas movie, and so I think that seasonal comedies are going to play really well. Again, I'm interested to see what Planes, Trains, and Automobiles will do. I'm hoping that people realize that movie's greatness, and I think they do. But again, with it potentially going up against Christmas Vacation and the Sweet 16, I hate it, but I just don't see. I just don't see it taking Christmas Vacation. So if I had to pick out of this top region, I'm gonna put my money on either Christmas Vacation. But again, Ghostbusters, man, this is gonna be tough. This one's gonna be interesting.
That's gonna be a tough matchup. Ghostbusters if they both make it through, which I think they will, Ghostbusters and Christmas Vacation is going to be a really tough matchup. And then I agree with you. I think Planes Trains makes it out of that top little portion, and then it's really tough after that. I would pick it to keep going, but I could definitely see it getting beat at that point. All right, so let's go to the bottom part of that Bill Murray region. We've got What About Bob at the 3 seed going against Uncle Buck at the 14. The 6 seed Caddyshack against the 11 Happy Gilmore. The 7 seed Friday against the 10 seed Groundhog Day. The 2 seed There's Something About Mary against the 15 seed Office Space. I think this one's a little bit easier for me to pick who I think would come out of this part up until you get to the end. And then that would be tough. But for me, the most intriguing matchup out of this top part is that Caddyshack and Happy Gilmore matchup.
Yeah, I mean, the toughest one for me is What About Bob, Uncle Buck? Because for me, those should be, What About Bob seated probably correctly, just because, again, if you take your personal preference out of it, I think both are seated correctly. Again, I got to keep remembering it's not my personal bracket. But I'm going to go ahead and say, man, I definitely see Friday being an intriguing. It's in a good spot because I feel like There's Something About Mary is hilarious, but again, Friday has stuck around and is like a very, we talked about cult classics. I mean, that is one of the stronger ones. I personally think it's I really think Happy Gilmore, if it can get past Caddyshack, even though this wasn't what I would pick, I see Happy Gilmore coming out of this region. I really do.
Happy Gilmore is another one of those that's on TV a lot.
It's very quotable. People still quote it. Golf season is coming up. Golf's on the mind. Again, it really depends on who votes.
I can see Happy Gilmore making a run.
It really depends on who votes.
Yeah. Yeah, if I had to pick like my favorite out of this part, it would come down to obviously What About Bob and There's Something About Mary, and then that would be a tough one. That would be one of those where it would just depend on what mood I'm in.
And I'm telling you, don't sleep on Office Space here because, again, just the same deal with Dazed and Confused. I think that There's Something About Mary is a funnier movie, but Office Space has stuck around. It's one of the, it's not even a cult classic anymore because it's so popular among the people that really like it. So I do think that's going to be a lot closer than people think. I think Something About Mary might eke it out, but I wouldn't be shocked if Office Space pulled off the upset there.
Okay. I think There's Something About Mary will win not handedly, but it'll be.
But you know what I'm saying about Office Space, though?
Again, and it's the same thing with Dazed and Confused. You're absolutely right. Dazed and Confused is the same way for me. That I feel like so many people love that movie, especially around our age, because it came out at the right time. Right at that time that we were around that same age, or dealing with that high school stuff. So. I agree that I'll put it this way. There's other movies that if I would have switched Groundhog Day and Office Space, I think people would have picked. I don't think it would have been close. I think There's Something About Mary, but some of the matchups I think are better.
I'm just telling you, I really believe the winner of that Friday Groundhog Day matchup. Again, Groundhog Day. I prefer other Bill Murray movies. Groundhog Day is a lot of people's favorite Bill Murray. Like, flat out. Like, it's their favorite. I think whoever wins that one beats whoever comes out of the There's Something About Mary Office Space. Just because, again, I just think that those are movies that people watch on a more regular basis than the other two. It's going to be interesting. But to make my predictions, I'm going to say Happy Gilmore. Again, just predictions, not my personal list. Happy Gilmore squaring off with... I'm going to say Groundhog Day, man, because I feel like even though I think Friday whoever wins that matchup, I would take there, but I'll just say Groundhog Day because Bill Murray, I feel like Bill Murray is going to
Yeah.
going to get there.
Yeah, and I would go. I think I'm gonna agree with you on the Happy Gilmore one. I think whoever wins that Caddyshack Happy Gilmore wins the next one. Again, not my choice, but what I think how people are gonna vote. And then I'm gonna go. There's something about Mary, and then that matchup is really tough. And then I'd probably pick. What About Bob? If I had to pick, I just think that movie's more approachable for like everyone. Like anybody can watch that movie and laugh. But I don't know. So all right, man. Well, let's go on to the next region, which is the Ben Stiller region, and I think this is going to be the bracket. This and the next region, the Will Ferrell, I think are going to be the toughest ones for people to pick because they're the most recent. But let's go ahead and get into the matchups. 1 seed Tropic Thunder going against 16 seed Super Troopers. It won one of our play-in matchups against Beer Fest, which I would have picked Beer Fest.
Beer Fest is superior, man. But Super Troopers,
I
Super
agree.
Troopers was like the first, Broken Lizard. Like that was like the first introduction for a lot of people. So I do get why Super Troopers is more like popular, but I agree. I think Beer Fest is funnier.
And one of my friends, Mike, we were talking about it. He said that I want to say he said that he likes Beer Fest more, but Super Troopers is more quotable, which I'll agree with that.
Yeah,
So it just depends on what you're looking for. So, but either one could have been there. 8-9 matchup. This is a tough one for me. 21 Jump Street and MacGruber. 4 seed 40-year-old virgin against the 13 Pineapple Express, and the 5 seed Zoolander versus the 12 Road Trip. I'll just say right now, I think there's going to be. I could see there being a couple of small upsets in this. I do think Road Trip will beat Zoolander. I would pick it to. I think Road Trip's funnier than Zoolander. And then the toughest one for me has got to be 21 Jump Street and MacGruber. That would be a tough one for me to pick. I do think that Tropic Thunder comes out of this top part though. But any of those 4 movies at the bottom, I could see. It just like we said so many times, it depends on who.
Yeah, and look, man, I strongly believe in the power of syndication, and 21 Jump Street is on every week, and I feel like that's on people's minds constantly. You don't see Road Trip on TV anymore. And again, I know a lot of people streaming stuff. I get that, but I'm just saying, like people that still are kind of like flipping around on a day they're watching sports or something. Like you always see 21 Jump Street. Even though I think Tropic Thunder is the strongest comedy, just from a comedy perspective on this list, I really think it's going to be 21 Jump Street meeting 40-year-old virgin. I think 40-year-old virgin is still kind of like kept its, I don't think it's near as like popular as it was when it first came out. A lot of those Apatow movies I feel like aren't. But I don't know. Zoolander's interesting too because that's a quotable movie. That's a movie that people still quote a lot. That's got Ben Stiller, Will Ferrell. People remember it. But if I had to put money on a movie coming out of this whole region, I'd say 21 Jump Street.
See, I'm going to disagree with you on this one because I think MacGruber just had the show come out. MacGruber, I think, kind of has that cult following. And yeah, 21 Jump Street's on all the time, but I don't ever hear anyone really talk about it. I think MacGruber is going to win that matchup, and then I think Tropic Thunder is going to kind of coast its way.
Tropic Thunder should.
Through
Tropic
this top
Thunder
part.
should, but it's this is probably the weakest region.
And again,
from a standpoint of like
who could win it?
Yeah, because I feel like any of these, if any of these movies were in a different region, it'd be interesting to see. I don't know if any of these would come out of the other ones we mentioned, other than maybe Tropic Thunder or 21. For me. But yeah, it's going to be interesting.
All right, let's go to the bottom part. 3 seed, Meet the Parents against the 14. This is the end. 6 seed, Forgetting Sarah Marshall against the 11. Tenacious D, The Pick of Destiny. The 7 seed, Role Models against the 10 seed, Dodgeball. 2 seed, Superbad against 15 seed, Van Wilder.
Well, I absolutely love Meet the Parents.
Yep.
This one's pretty easy for me, and I think that Dodgeball will be the upset here. I think Dodgeball will upset Role Models easily. Role Models is really good.
I think it will.
But Dodgeball is.
I think it will.
A classic.
I think it will because kind of like what we talked about. It's got more memorable characters. It's on all the time. People have seen it 20 times probably if they've watched TV at all. I personally love Role Models, but I definitely think that Dodgeball is going to come out on top.
But the one that I'm just going to say, I think it's going to. This one's easy. I think it's going to be Meet the Parents versus Superbad. And again, I always say this because I got to make sure people know. What I think's going to happen is I think Superbad's going to roll through this bracket with ease.
Yeah, I do too.
With ease. I don't. This is probably the easiest bracket to pick. I just think out of all these movies, I think they're all seated pretty correctly. I'd have Dodgeball ahead of ranked. I would switch Forgetting Sarah Marshall and Dodgeball. This sounds awful, but I have forgotten about Sarah Marshall. That's just a movie that I still think it's hilarious, but I don't seek it out to watch it. So I'm going to go, even though Meet the Parents to me is my favorite movie in here, Superbad is a very close second. And I know that Superbad's more popular than Meet the Parents, so Superbad with ease. What do you think?
I agree with you.
What's your upset of this? You got one?
I can see Tenacious D beating Forgetting Sarah Marshall. I feel pretty confident about that. And then people forget that's also a Ben Stiller movie.
Yeah, it is.
Plays one of the great cameos in cinema history. And then in the top part, I think, I don't know, maybe it's just personal bias, but I think Road Trip is gonna beat Zoolander. I don't know. I just have a feeling about it. But I agree with you. I think Meet the Parents and Superbad meet up, and then probably Superbad. And again, that would be my personal choice is Superbad. But again, it's going to depend on who votes. If people, that really kind of skew older vote, then they're going to go with Meet the Parents, I think. So I could see either one. I wouldn't be shocked. Well, I'd be kind of shocked if Meet the Parents beat Superbad, if I'm being honest.
Tropic Thunder, of the whole thing, I mean, this is the one, like I said, I think Tropic Thunder is one that's going to be hold up incredibly well in terms of just people are gosh, I can't believe that even got made type of movie. But just because it's so different than anything, in my opinion. But I can pretty confidently say out of this whole bracket, my lock of the tournament would be Superbad making the Final Four. Just because I just feel like it's in that perfect time where it's not too old yet. It's hugely quotable. It's got it's high school movie. Yeah. It's people our age kind of saw it at a certain time, still have an affinity for it, and it's still out there. There's still you can still get those McLovin shirts. Everybody in that movie's become a star. I just think that's my lock of the tournament. I would say would be Superbad to the Final Four. That's my Final Four lock, I guess you could say.
Okay. All right, so let's go to the last region, and then we will kind of break down the bracket a little bit more. So Will Ferrell region, the 1 seed Step Brothers against the 16 Neighbors, 8 seed Old School versus the 9 Harold and Kumar, Escape from Guantanamo Bay. I picked that one because I think that one's way better than the first one. So I probably could have thrown the first one.
We probably should have had the first one because that one is the more popular one. But I'm with you. Harold and Kumar from Guantanamo Bay is equally, if not funnier. So I'm with you. I think instead of dropping,
I think it's way
instead
funnier.
of dropping Guantanamo, I would just have both of them in there. Yeah, I agree.
The 4 seed Hangover versus the 13 Waiting. The 5 seed Hot Fuzz versus the 12 Scary Movie. So what I know which matchup you kind of look at and we'll kind of go back and forth a little bit, and that's Hangover and Waiting, because I know you really.
I'm
like
telling you right
Waiting.
now, man. I think Waiting's one of the movies that, you know, I feel like is a time capsule movie. And I feel that it, like, during that time when Waiting came out, I don't know if I'm not sure how it would play today. You know, like, if you showed it, you know, I think it'd be popular, but like that, the jokes that are in that movie, just the fastness of it. Like, I love movies that take place over the course of one day. Waiting has definitely become one of my, like, go-to, like, comfort movies, man. I just love watching Waiting. It's so much fun. So that's going to be interesting to me, because I think there's other people like me that, oddly enough, as great as The Hangover, as good as The Hangover is, and The Hangover was like huge for about 5 years. I mean, nobody would stop quoting it. That movie, I don't think has held as much. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't feel like it has the same staying power as a Superbad or something, you know?
No, I agree with you there. I do think Hangover is going to win this matchup, but I do think it will be close. Yeah. I think it'll be close.
I do too, but I can say that and I'll let you do your. But I think we could both agree. I think Step Brothers is going to just absolutely mow through this.
I agree to a point. I think its toughest matchup will be. I think the toughest matchup, maybe of the entire tournament for people, will be Hangover versus Hot Fuzz when they meet in the second. If they meet in the second round, and then if Hot Fuzz wins, I could see it beating Step Brothers because it's so different. Like it's like an action comedy. People that love that, I love that stuff. I wouldn't pick it over Step Brothers, but I could see that type of comedy could beat Step Brothers because it's a different style.
There's no way that Hot Fuzz gets past Hangover. If I just don't see how, and it's definitely not going to even challenge Step Brothers. I mean, we talk about movies with out of all the 1 seeds, honestly, I'm not saying Step Brothers is better than Dumb and Dumber or like any of these 1 seeds or Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, whatever. I'm not saying it's better. But out of all the 1 seeds, I think Step Brothers is probably the strongest because people, it's in that perfect time frame right now where like it's still on people's minds. It's grown in popularity as the years have gone on. But I hear what you're saying. If something's going to beat it, it's not going to be old school. It's going to be something kind of different.
Yeah. The toughest matchup for me personally to pick would be Old School and Harold and Kumar. I think Harold and Kumar is funnier. But I think Old School will win that one.
Yeah, that Old School will definitely win.
You know, it came out when when I was in college, and
I think this one's going to go by the book. I think all the top seeds will advance, and Step Brothers will be there in the Elite Eight.
Okay. All right, let's go to the bottom part of this bracket. The 3 seed Wedding Crashers against the 14 Mean Girls. You got the 6 Shaun of the Dead going against the 11 What We Do in the Shadows. 7 seed Tucker and Dale versus Evil versus the 10 School of Rock. And then the 2 seed Anchorman versus 15 seed Talladega Nights.
This is where I'll say that the misseedings of this will make this a lot of upsets, because Talladega Nights should be way higher than 15 in my opinion. And Tucker and Dale, as much as I love that movie, I mean, I saw it at its like premiere at a film festival. I love that movie. I don't think it should be a 7 seed or anywhere. Honestly, I really think that and Talladega Nights should have probably switched. But as is,
yeah. Well, I would have loved to have had your input.
Well, you had a board of people, man. Whoever told y'all that Tucker and Dale should have a 7 seed?
I had 2 guys. I had two guys, and they were like, "Hey, man, doesn't your brother do this with you?" And I was like, "Yeah, he doesn't like to rank movies."
I don't, but I will say that School of Rock to me.
Looking back, you're probably right. Looking back, you're probably right.
School of Rock to me is gonna win that match. Like that's the upset, right? I mean, the 10-7.
I could also see What We Do in the Shadows winning just because the show is really popular as well, and I think more people have tuned into it because of the show.
Right.
That to me is the most intriguing matchup of this bottom part is Shaun of the Dead and What We Do in the Shadows.
Anchorman.
That to me, I could see going either way.
Anchorman Talladega Nights for a 215 is insanity to me. Like that, and I'm not even saying I love Talladega Nights. I just meant like that's two powerhouse, like Will Ferrell, like people have seen 100 times movies. That's going to be really interesting. If it was my personal bracket, I like School of Rock better than any of those movies down there, so I'd have that advancing. But, well, maybe not as much as Anchorman, but I definitely think it's going to be Wedding Crashers, Anchorman, and that's going to be interesting to see who comes out of that one. That's going to be a powerhouse Sweet 16 matchup.
And that's going to be one of those where I think if either one of those movies was in another region, I think it probably could win those regions.
Yeah.
But I think top to bottom, Will Ferrell's this region, I'll put it this way. I think this region has more teams that could win other regions, but I think I don't think it's strong 1 through 16.
Yeah.
I think there's other regions that are stronger.
I'm just going to say,
all right,
Wedding Crashers, I would say would come out of this region just because I think that it's more accessible to. Anchorman still is, even though it's a hugely popular movie, it's still an acquired taste. Wedding Crashers is more of a mainstream comedy.
Okay, so how many one seeds do you see making it to the Final Four? Dumb and Dumber, Tropic Thunder, Step Brothers, and Planes, Trains, and Automobiles.
Sadly, I just think 2. I think 2.
I could see 2.
I think it's going to be Dumb and Dumber and Step Brothers. Step Brothers, I'm going to be honest with you. Step Brothers is probably, out of all the movies, out of all the one seeds, I think Step Brothers has the easiest road to the Final Four. In my opinion, but I still think
because I think
Dumb and Dumber and Step Brothers.
It does because I think the top part isn't as strong. I think that it's going to kind of mow through those teams, but then that matchup between Anchorman or Wedding Crashers, that's gonna be tough.
Yeah.
I think even though it kills me to say it, I think the one seed that loses earliest is probably Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. Just because, again, I don't think there's people that I still know that haven't seen Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. All the other ones, everybody has seen these.
Yeah, and it's just bad luck that you can call it bad luck, bad seeding. I mean, what have you? Having it.
It's not bad
having
seeding.
It go up against either Christmas Vacation or Ghostbusters in the Sweet 16. I mean, you're not doing it any favors. I mean, that's the tragedy of it all.
Would you? Would you have put Christmas Vacation ahead of What About Bob?
Me personally, no. But if you're going based on the general public, I would say that Christmas Vacation is a stronger property than What About Bob.
I agree. I agree with that. But again, I had to put my personal.
No, and that's
it's just
but again,
why Tucker and Dale's at 7.
I mean, did you want me to just come on here and agree with everything? I mean, how much fun would that be?
I mean,
some of the seating is an absolute mind boggler.
Vindication.
I mean, like I said, you didn't do any. Again, I think some of it's on purpose. I think.
I will say this: some of these, I tried to think of the best matchups. So, like,
you wouldn't want to just all the one
Caddyshack,
seeds having an easy road. I mean, I get it.
No, I'm just saying, like Caddyshack and Happy Gilmore. I specifically made that because I wanted to see that matchup.
Yeah.
To see who out of those two the two best golf movies, I think pretty much everybody will agree, which one comes out on top. And then
I'm going to say I do think that Planes, Trains, Automobiles and Tropic Thunder will both fail to make the Elite Eight, sadly enough. Planes, Trains, Automobiles is one of my all-time favorite movies, so I'm way biased towards it. But yeah, there's no.
See, I disagree with you. I think Tropic Thunder has a pretty easy route.
See,
I think 21 Jump Street.
I think 21 Jump Street
popular,
is that popular. I think 21 Jump Street is a beast at the 8th seed. I think 21 Jump Street has something to say. So yeah, to answer your question, 2 1 seeds. I'm betting 2 1 seeds make it, and those 1 seeds being Step Brothers and Dumb and Dumber.
All right, so if we had to put money on, well, first let's do our personal picks. So, and this will be our final 4 picks, and then we'll kind of start to wrap this up.
Now, what we think is going to get there, like we're predicting it, or
no, this is our personal opinion of what would make it, and then we'll do one where we talk about. So, in the Jim Carrey region, I think to make the final 4, I would probably say Dumb and Dumber. There's other movies. It's just going to be really hard for me to pick in a one-on-one matchup something over Dumb and Dumber. So I'm going to say in the Jim Carrey region, I would personally take Dumb and Dumber. What about you?
Yeah, I'm going to agree. I mean, Dumb and Dumber is, as much as I love Cable Guy, and as much as I love, a lot of these movies in here, like Great Outdoors, Blue Streak, Heavyweight, like, yeah, I mean, Dumb and Dumber's people are still quoting that movie, and it's still, yeah, Dumb and Dumber.
All right, so the Bill Murray region, my personal pick, it would come down to...
It's coming down to What About Bob and Planes, Trains for me. I would pick Planes, Trains. That's my personal bracket. Like, I'd pick Planes, Trains to get there.
I think I'd pick There's Something About Mary for me. It would be whoever won that What About Bob, There's Something About Mary one. And again, this kind of goes back to, I think Planes, Trains, and Automobiles for me is a better movie. Like, if I were ranking my movies, I would have Planes, Trains, and Automobiles higher. Mm-hmm. But as far as like a comedy, I would pick one of those other 2. All right, so Tropic Thunder region or Ben Stiller region.
For me, it's tough. That's
probably tough, man.
It's tough, but for me, I'm going to say Meet the Parents. I love Meet the Parents. That's a comfort watch for me. That holds high for me just because I'm thinking, like, what movie do I watch the most? Like, what movie when I see it on do I watch the most? And so I'm going to say Meet the Parents. But it's tough because I love Superbad and I love Tropic Thunder.
I'm going to go with Superbad. And then Will Ferrell region, I'm going to go Step Brothers.
Yeah, I mean, it's between Step Brothers and Wedding Crashers for me. I
actually watched Wedding Crashers last night, man. That movie is so fun.
Yeah, just to mix it up, because that's kind of a push for me. But just to mix it up, I'm going to say Wedding Crashers.
All right, and then real quickly, what we think. Well, I think we've kind of already gone over what we think the people will pick. Mine would be Dumb and Dumber. I'm going to say Christmas Vacation out of the Bill Murray region. I just think people have such an affinity for that movie that I could see it. I think whoever wins that and Ghostbusters, I think will win the region. And then Superbad and Step Brothers.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be Dumb and Dumber versus. Again, that's why it's tough to go against Christmas Vacation, but just to mix it up a little bit. Yeah, I mean, mine's going to be pretty similar. I mean, I do think that Dumb and Dumber will meet up with man. I think Christmas Vacation, but just to kind of have some fun with it, I'm going to say Happy Gilmore. I could definitely see Happy Gilmore going on a run here. So I'm going to say Dumb and Dumber, Happy Gilmore. But if I had the money on it, I'd say Christmas Vacation. But and then Superbad and Step Brothers. And then if I had to, again, if I'm just predicting the bracket, I definitely think it's going to be a Dumb and Dumber versus a Step Brothers final. And I really don't know where that would go. But I think that
they're very similar.
They're similar. It just depends. If people that are voting are our age and older, it's going to be Dumb and Dumber. If people a little bit younger than us are voting, or even younger people, like in college right now, Step Brothers.
That'll tell. Yeah, that'll tell the tale.
But I do think it's going to be. I do think that the I feel really confident that that's going to be the final matchup is Step Brothers and Dumb and Dumber.
All right, pick one dark horse. This could be like a 6 or lower seed that you think could go really far. For me,
go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Oh, you gonna say Happy Gilmore?
No, I was gonna ask what seed Happy Gilmore was again.
It's 11.
Okay, go ahead.
So yeah, I would say that's up there. We've already kind of talked about that one a little bit. I'm trying to look and see real quick. I'm gonna say, and again, this is just kind of my personal preference, but I would like to see heavyweights go a couple rounds. I know it's not gonna go the final 4 or anything, but that to me, that was a really hard one for me to rank, because if it's me personally, I have it as like a top 3 seed, but it's not, iconically, it's not ahead of some of these other ones. You know what I mean? So that to me was,
and I will say
for me personally, I would have that higher.
And I will say the disrespect for Adam Sandler, and again, I know y'all tried y'all's best, but the disrespect for Adam Sandler in this bracket is, I'm trying to understand it. I can't wrap my head around it. I mean, Billy Madison, a 12 seed. Happy Gilmore an 11.
Okay.
I mean, my Lord.
Okay, you could have flipped Caddyshack and Happy Gilmore, and at one point I did have them flipped. I had Happy Gilmore as the 6. But
Adam Sandler deserves more respect, is all I'm saying. I think he's got he does, like, those are his two of his Mount Rushmores.
Okay, so
I think he should have got a top seed.
Okay, so Billy Madison ahead of Wayne's World.
Absolutely. And I love Wayne's World, but I think that Billy Madison, people are like, I think that Billy Madison should have been at least a 6 or higher seed. Do you not agree?
I mean, probably, but again, you can't just say, "Oh, I think it should be this," because then when you start ranking these, which you would know if you would have actually,
you have Shaun of the Dead ahead of it,
dude. That's because of the bracket it's in.
Cable
Guy. Would you put Billy Madison ahead of Cable Guy?
You did different decades or something?
Yeah, I didn't go straight. I explained that at the beginning. I couldn't go because I didn't want it to be where just all the newer movies were getting picked. You know what I mean? I didn't want it to be just all of the newer movies made it to the Elite Eight.
Here's the honest truth, though.
So I figured
Billy Madison and Happy Gilmore, I don't know where you'd put it. I definitely think they should be higher. That's all I'm saying. So the reason I segued,
I agree.
The reason I segued into that is because these aren't true 12 or 11 seeds. So it's kind of not fair to pick these two because I just feel like they should be higher. But I will say I definitely think Billy Madison's going a couple of rounds. I think Dumb and Dumber and Billy Madison, that matchup, I think Dumb and Dumber wins it. But I'm telling you, Billy Madison has a pretty. It's going to be fun to see that. Happy Gilmore, I think, is going to go a couple rounds.
And then some of these movies just come down to like a coin flip, basically. Tommy Boy. I could have moved that down a couple and moved those up, but for me, I like Tommy Boy more. So it kind of, and and I would say probably seeds 6 through 12, you could interchange them any way you want, and especially in the older brackets. And I wouldn't have.
No, well, those are my dark horses.
Those
are my dark horses. And
Okay.
then
Okay.
21 Jump Street. I don't agree with this, but I think 21 Jump Street is gonna knock out our first 1 seed with Tropic Thunder, because the only reason I say that is, again, I just think that Tropic Thunder is one of those other ones. I feel like people don't give it as much love as they should. And so 21 Jump Street's kind of that fun, easy pick. It's like, oh, I like 21 Jump Street. I like Jonah Hill. Boom, 21 Jump Street gets a vote, So I could see that happening.
Mm. I'm gonna go out on a limb and say that MacGruber beats 21 Jump Street.
No, that's not going to happen, man. Unless it's just me and you voting. If we don't get any interest on this and it's just you and me voting, it will.
It could be.
But
I'm gonna say that MacGruber wins, and then let's make a little bet. If whoever loses has to buy movie snacks next time we go to the movies.
All right.
So that's our breakdown. And again, this was really tough. Like, there were so many movies that got left off, and I don't even want to name them because then you'll yell at me. Like Elf. I wanted to put Elf on there.
No
so
seasonal
bad,
movies should have.
but I already had.
It's just tough because.
And the only one that I really put on there was Christmas Vacation.
Planes, Trains. But
yeah, but it's not.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's not like a Christmas movie. It's a Thanksgiving movie, but yeah, that, and then movies like Kindergarten Cop, movies like Big, stuff like that.
I was
out
just
a bunch,
trying to, but it is what it is.
You'll wrap your head into a pretzel if you sit there and try to do that. So, all right, well, we will have the bracket up on Facebook and throughout social media where you can vote. And there's also going to be a thing where you can predict. So you can vote on your personal favorites, and then you can predict who's going to win. And then we're going to have prizes and stuff for people that do well in that. So thanks again for listening, Justin. Thanks for joining me. Maybe next time I can actually talk you into helping me rank these so you won't have such a problem.
I think it was better for the episode that I didn't know, because I was you sent me the bracket right as we were going on, so I got to kind of see it unveiled in real time, and if I would have helped it,
dude, you're
we would
like
have had the same picks.
You're like the guy at CBS that gets it straight from the committee that has to put it up on the thing. Like, you're that guy.
Yeah.
So, but all right, well, I'm excited. And I already started thinking about different ones for next year, but this is an undertaking. And again, there's going to be movies that you think should be on here that didn't make it. It's just the way it is. So, thanks again for listening, and hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you next time.